Hey, you're with the library prof. Here's the library, and here's the prof. And we're continuing to talk about critical thinking in relation to writing and rhetoric, and thinking about the basics of critical thinking. And one of the key things to get started when you're thinking about critical thinking is to think about premises and where you start your arguments. And so let's start here. Let's just say that oftentimes the Oz curtain of a person's way of thinking, if it appears mysterious, confusing, or suspiciously unsupported, that Oz curtain can be drawn back by simply asking, why did this person start her argument exactly where she did? And why did she stop it exactly where she did? If this question cannot be answered to your satisfaction, it may be because the author has not stated it outright. This may be for a variety of reasons. It's possible, for instance, that the writer has misread you, which would be misread her audience, expecting you would treat her points of departure and conclusion as your points of departure and conclusion, granting her opening and closing claims as in need of no additional justification because you are at those points at yes with her. And remember, rhetoric is about getting to yes with an audience. So perhaps she assumes that you have the background knowledge that she does, and you're part of her community, sharing her general sensibilities and assumptions and beliefs, knowing where questions can generally start and stop without a lot of justification or explanation. But perhaps you're not part of her community. Perhaps you don't share her way of talking about things, and so you're unwilling to start arguments where she does. If, for instance, you don't take as axiomatic, that is, self-evident, foundational, something not in need of additional argument, that all human beings are created by God and created equal, as Thomas Jefferson so famously claimed in the Declaration of Independence, when he wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." If you don't accept that premise, then you are in want of additional convincing. You have not reached yes with this message sender, sharing her premises. What are premises? The word premise was used numerous times in the immediate reflection just now. But what are premises exactly? Premises are those explicit and implicit claims that support other explicit or implicit claims or conclusions. They are the things you assume in argument and that you hope your audience assumes. An example can be found in any enthymeme. Aristotle called a sentence containing a claim and a support an enthymeme. So here's an example. I didn't get on the plane because Grandma dreamed the night before that it would crash. An enthymeme includes one premise and one conclusion, but relies on the reader to fill in the second premise, the dropped premise. In this case, the dropped premise is that the dreams of grandmas have predictive power, which is obviously a dubious argumentative assumption, and a nice reminder as to why one should always check a writer's or speaker's premises, including one's own. Putting it more formally, an enthymeme is an argument that leaves the reader to supply the missing premise. Grandma dreamed the plane would crash. That would be the first premise. Grandma's dreams foretell the future. That's the dropped second premise. Therefore, I didn't get on the plane. That's the conclusion. Support is about getting to the because of your claim. And an enthymeme achieves this in a single sentence. Any sentence with because in it is an enthymeme, whether it appears at the beginning of a sentence or somewhere in the middle. And any sentence with because in it will have a dropped premise that the writer expects the reader to supply without the writer having to make it explicit.